Greetings guys, my name is Atecep and today I bring you a video about this graphics card, the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 950 2GB. First of all, I must state that this is my first video in English, so don't mind my lack of speech fluidity. This graphics card was released on August 2015 for $160, around 180 euros in Europe. It is a Maxwell GPU, has 768 CUDA cores and a TDP of 90 watts. This card is the OC version from MSI and has 1076 MHz base clock and 1253 MHz boost clock and packs 2GB of GDDR5 RAM operating at 3300 MHz. It has one DVI-D output, one DVI-I, one HDMI and one DisplayPort. When it comes to power, it only needs a 6-pin connector. This graphics card cost me 50 euros in the used market, and whenever I buy used components I like to give them that affection they deserve: cleaning and new thermal paste. Since I'm going to take it apart, take a look at the GPU die. I always overclock the graphics card I test, so in this video you will only see the results with the overclocking applied. Although this card had no memory or VRM heatsinks, I still managed to raise the core clock by 150 MHz, mostly operating at 1478 MHz. And I was able to increase the memory clocks by 700 MHz and it's now operating around 4000 MHz. I have 7 games to show you running in Full HD, and the graphics card was tested on my PC that has a Ryzen 7 3700X and 32GB of RAM at 3600 MHz. I will start with the esports titles, which was the main focus of this GPU at its release. Fortnite is a very popular game within the kids, and it's the game of the moment, though I don't like to play it. Running this game at high settings is not exactly difficult for this card, as it can offer 65 FPS on average and 1% low was around 50 FPS, so no FPS drops that could spoil the gaming experience. Blizzard recently announced the sequel to this game, but apparently Overwatch will continue to receive support for the multiplayer. And this is another game easily handled by the 950. The settings on high guarantee 105 FPS on average and the 1% low was around 73 FPS, which shows how stable this game runs. PUBG, yes, it is a game that I really enjoy playing, although lately I'm in potato mode skill-wise. Anyway, PUBG is a game I always play at very low due to input lag, but for testing purposes I used low settings. The game runs smoothly on the GTX 950, averaging 67 FPS and 1% low at 49. Knowing that this game is quite hardware demanding, it is not a bad result. To finalize the esports chapter, I tested CSGO at the maximum quality with 2x MSAA and decided to use the FPS benchmark. When it comes to the average FPS, not bad at 226 FPS, but the 1% low of 27 FPS seems to indicate that the game has a very aggressive stutter. In fact, this is not true. This is due to a scene from this benchmark where smoke is too demanding and the FPS drops below 30 FPS, and this influences the 1% low results, since when playing there are no stutters at all. I think it was the last time I used this tool to test GPUs. Now let's proceed to the games that interest me the most, because I'm not a big fan of multiplayer. The Witcher 3 is possibly the best RPG of recent years. It has a massive world, amazing graphics, lots of quests. Well, this game is a treat. But we all know that although this game came out in 2015, the very same year that this card was released, it is still a very demanding game. Even so, the GTX 950 can still deliver 48 FPS on average with the settings on high and the 1% low at 37 FPS. I do not remember which settings the consoles run this game, but I venture to say that consoles offer a poorer graphics experience than what this GPU is capable of. Borderlands is my favorite game series and I was thrilled when the third came out. Despite having cel-shaded graphics, it is a quite heavy game, much due to the lightning and volumetric fog. Even so, with quality on medium, we can play Borderlands 3 at 43 FPS on average and with 1% low of 36. Not bad. Finally, I tested Gridfall, which is an RPG I'm playing and loving, although it's nothing special. I was struck by the fact that this game has very appealing graphics and seems not to be too demanding, but I was wrong. By comparison, I tested this game on high settings as I did with The Witcher 3, but the performance was much worse. The FPS average was around 35 and 1% low of 25. Of the games that I tested, it is the only one that does not offer such a good performance, but just lowering the settings to medium should do the trick. In conclusion, the GTX 950 is still capable of running a very large panoply of games and for the price seems like a good alternative in the used market for 1080p gaming. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Cheers!